Hi. Oh, still very loud. All right. Thanks for having me. First time here in Verona, and it's absolutely amazing. It's beautiful. The wine is great. So many nice people. Thanks. Um, um, there won't be a single line of code in this presentation. That's one thing I can. Yes. It will be something about building products, the process behind it, and a little bit about spaghetti. Okay. I'll do it from here. It's fine. So I'm Rikke, and I work for a company called Usto, and Usto is a digital product studio. And that means we design and develop for anything with a screen, really. It's VR, it's mobile mainly, it's desktop, it's anything with a screen. And I'm Rikke, and I've been working for Usto for almost 3 years. I'm based in London, and when I'm not being carried over ropes by my colleagues, I work as what you call as a UX UI designer or a product designer. I just want to show you some of my earliest work. This is the first website I ever made. I was about 13 years old, and I was selling virtual ponies for virtual money. It looked something like this, and you could like join races and buy gear for your horse. And it was all like in written format, so you would write in a guest book what you wanted to buy, and I would take those virtual money from you. It was kind of like The Sims before The Sims and with horses. And there was no CSS, so it was like purely, I was like copy-pasting HTML back then and yeah, having fun. But I had around like 10 users coming back every day and making sure their virtual horses were all right. Super weird. I haven't even thought about it since really now that it's really fucked up. But so later out, I found out you could actually make money for or making a living for making stuff for the internet. That's sort of how I became a UX designer. And I often get asked like UX, what is that? Yeah, and I have a really hard time explaining what it is I do. But I think when it comes to especially products that people use, design is not only about how it looks. It's about how people use it, and it's about how it works. And UX is short for user experience, so the experience a person have when they open a product or try out your thing, whatever you might design. Is it a water bottle, an app, or what it might be? And I once read somewhere that good UX, that's invisible. And that's probably true. And then I thought, okay, if good UX is invisible, then bad UX must be visible, right? So I started walking around the world with this in mind, and it's true. Bad UX is very visible. I came to this hotel on Tuesday evening, and I arrived pretty late, and I wanted a glass of water. So I went to the bathroom, and I found a little cup. And I don't know if anyone stays at this hotel, but this water tap, what the fuck? And I mean, I couldn't figure out how it worked, and it made me feel a bit stupid. I did figure out in the end, though. I got my glass of water. But I think this goes for all design. And I'm so sorry if the designer behind this product sits in this room tonight. I'm sorry. But I felt stupid, and a user shouldn't feel stupid. It's only the designer's fault. It's the designer that's stupid if you can't figure out how to use it. Okay, that was a bit about UX, what I do. Then there's the UI, which is a bit more tangible and easy to understand. It's everything you see. It's colors, it's fonts, it's icons. It's everything that's visible. It's like icing on the cake. Alright, so that's what I do. But who are we? Well, Usto is founded by these two guys. In this picture, they are very young. They don't look like that today. But this is Sings and Mills, and they're best friends since they were teenagers. And they worked for an animation studio called Big Animal in London. And Big Animal were doing a lot of animation work for big and small clients. One of their clients was Sony. And Sony, they started to ask for more like UI design for some of their platforms, but the founder of Big Animal back then, he was like, no, it's not what we do. We only want to do animation. But Sings and Mills, they were like, it's kind of interesting what's going on with the phones and stuff, and we kind of want to do this. So they left their job and they took a loan from their parents and were working from their parents' bedroom and started doing this interface work for Sony. And that is more than 10 years ago, and we're still independent, and Mills and Sings are still running the studio today. So today it looks a bit different. We have 4 studios around the world. We're in Sweden, we're in London, we're in New York, and we're in Sydney. And we're more than 250 people today, and we have over 30 nationalities. Actually, diversity is something we care a great deal about. So much that we have a diversity committee. So it means that we support flexible working and try to represent underrepresented groups in tech, and give possibilities to people that might not have it in the field. And this is what we do. Our business mainly consists of 3 pillars. So it's client work, it's our own product, and it's venture work. The biggest part of the business is client work. And we partner with all sorts of companies to launch products. Some projects are short and very conceptual, and some are clients we've been working with for more than 10 years. A good example of that, as I mentioned before, is Sony. Today we help them build products for all the many different platforms, and we help them with sound design, UI design, motion. We basically support the whole design team. And but it hasn't always been like that. If you remember some of the early work I mentioned, this is some of the first work we did with Sony Ericsson, and it looked a lot different back then. Back then we were only allowed to touch the wallpapers, which looked amazing. Like, can you remember when you had something like this on your on your phone? That's crazy to think about. But they wouldn't let us anywhere near their products. So our relationship has come a long way in those 10 years. Yeah. So another thing we do is like we create our own products. And to crack new industries is really hard because we're design people, we're product people. We know how to do great code and design and understand users. But so we often team up with experts from other industries. For DICE, we teamed up with a guy called Phil. Phil's been working in the music industry forever. And so we built this music ticketing app. Today it's called DICE. And it's venture funded, and today it's independent from us too, so it's its own company with about 30 people full time. And it can sell out a festival within a few seconds. And only for now it's in the UK, but hopefully within a few years you'll be able to use it globally. Another venture is Mood Notes. It comes out from something we call invent time. So sometimes we put a dedicated team and time and place for something we're really passionate about. Mood Notes is built with a group of therapists in the US, and it's to capture feeling and practice healthier thinking habits. These therapists, we work closely with them to understand how we could make the product work for real people, and we added our expertise with products and design. This is Pause. Pause is built in our Malmö studio in Sweden, and it's together with a Danish company actually. It's called Possible, the company. And Possible is, they want to prevent stress at workplaces. And the founder of Possible, Peng, he had this idea about like a Tai Chi meditation in a phone. Because usually a phone is like very distracting and stressful, and it beeps and blinks and all these things. So he was like, how can we turn that around? So we built, see the video here, Pause with him. And so it's completely opposite to most apps. It actually helps you relax. And we've been testing it with testing the brain waves with like some measurement device, and it actually works. Like you relax when you do this. So it's been really interesting to get some great feedback from users who wouldn't usually meditate or do Tai Chi. So it's like a market that was totally undiscovered. Another thing we do is we make games. Yeah, you might know this, maybe. It's Monument Valley, and you lead Princess Ida through mazes of like optical illusions. And unlike most games, you don't save the princess or kill the evil, but you actually explore and understand and learn and help Ida. This game is designed for people, not for gamers, and I think that's the big difference. Like, I see so many games today from gamers for gamers, and this is completely different. My grandma plays it, young kids plays it. It's great, and you can see it by the numbers because 20 million people downloaded this game, and we made more than $10 million on it. It's actually so popular that even the president plays it. Yeah, this is from House of Cards. And you might think, oh, okay, how much did they pay to get that product placement? But actually it was for free. They had already written it in their scripts, and they called us up and asked if it was all right to use it. And we were like, yeah, sure, why not? And I think it's just a really good indicator that sometimes if you make something really fucking good, you don't have to spend a lot of marketing budget on it. Yeah. But all these shiny things and nice things in games that have been nothing but like an overnight success. It's been like 10 years of failing or succeeding, as we call it. Because we made a lot of weird stuff. And I think that's the secret to making anything good, really. It's just getting it out there, showing what you can do, like push the limits. And this is just like a snippet of what we released during the years that you've probably never seen or heard of before. I just want to take you through a few of these accelerators, as we call it. One of them is Rando. Rando was the first anti-social network, as we called it. It was basically Snapchat before Snapchat. So you could send out a rando, a little round picture, to the world, and you could receive one from a stranger. You wouldn't know anything about it other than where it was coming from, what country, part of the world. For this one, we actually tried to do the marketing things. So we bought some billboards in London. It didn't give us any more downloads, but it was sort of cool to see your app on your way to work. And but yeah, so it's just a little experiment. There was no business model for Rando, and it actually got hacked, and we couldn't afford to get it up and running again. So we ended up closing it down. But it was a really good lesson on how you can, in a very short time, build something, put it out, and get a lot of attention, PR, and press. My favorite Sixelia was Hunch. We called Hunch a super chat, and you could create these chat rooms and fill them with pictures and drawings and everything lol from the internet you can find. And I remember when I first was introduced to Hunch, because I went to university back then, and the founder or the brain behind Hunch, Sabine, like a good friend of mine today, she came out and told me about this thing and showed some pictures, and I was like, what the fuck is this place? But I used it with my classmates, and we had these weird rooms where we were like drawing on each other's face, and yeah, it was a good time. Hunch, opposite to Rando, had only didn't get that many users. There was 15,000 or something like that, and it made no money at all. And we spent so much time building it, and we had to close it down. We didn't have the money to maintain it. But again, a true Sixelia. It seems like a really good at making stuff, but not really making money on it at this time. But yeah, it's something we learned afterwards, I guess. I think it all comes from this thing. It's JFDI, or just effing do it. And I think it's all about, as I mentioned before, put it out there, build something, see what happens, just fucking do it. That's the only way you can learn, and it's the only way you can actually achieve something good with a few failures on the way. But it doesn't only apply to our own products, this JFDI. It also applies to our clients. Because one of our biggest client revenues today is actually Automotive, and that was 3 guys in the studio who are very passionate about this subject. We never done anything with it before, but they decided to write a book about automotive design. And there was, when we first released this, a lot of people were like, but you don't know anything about it. And we're like, yeah, but we're just trying out stuff, you know. And what happened was that a lot of big car brands came to us and were now working with us today, working with Ford and Jaguar and many more. And it's, yeah, a third of the studio revenue. Like, it's crazy. So just put it out there, even though you're not an expert, something good will come out of it. But it's not magic, all these things. It's just a good process behind and getting the in-between right to building things. I'm guessing a lot of you are familiar with this, the Waterfall Method. You might have stumbled upon it in your career sometimes. And it probably seems very fast and simple, but it's not really. If you make one little mistake in the design or in the build, you're screwed for the rest. It's like a domino effect. So we work agile or lean, and that means we build small experiments, a little prototype, a little sketch, something, we code a little, we put it out and give it to some users, and we learn something from it, and then build on that again. And when it comes to digital things, it's a bit different from doing a print or a movie or something like that. Like, you can constantly, it's like a never-ending circle. You can always make it a bit better. There always can be a new feature. The user is requesting something, some better technology comes along. So it's a never-ending story, and that can be tiring, but it's also a chance to keep iterating. If you're familiar with the MVP concept, it's minimal viable product, and that means that you help your user from day one, basically. So instead of spending 5 years building a nice car that you later find out is too small, you give them a skateboard from day one and see what happens and build on that. This is how I try to explain how we work to my client. So the whole team, identifies, try to find out a set of problems we want to solve. Then everyone goes together and sketch. It's developers, it's clients, it's everyone. And then we design a few solutions to take forward. We redefine it, and then we get into code, so I really understand how it works, and then put it in front of some users. And this is like a day of work. And already here we have something we can show our users, and that just keeps going in loops and loops and loops until we finally have something we want to release. This process also means that you need to be able to step out of your comfort zone and your usual role. Like, you can't just, as a developer or a designer, sit on your, I'm gonna do my animation design, that's the only thing I do. You have to be able to think of it as a whole experience, as a whole product, and do what's best for the team and the process. As designers should help developers, developers should help designers. And you can't just be the artsy, crazy designer, and you can't just be the grumpy developer. Like, it doesn't work like that anymore. This is an example from my previous team, from a feedback session, hence the post-its. But for this client, we were building an SMS service as our MVP. That means there was no UI, very little UX, and I was writing text messages to users. It also means that, as for some of these guys here, they were front-end developers, and one of them iOS developers. Here they were doing purely back-end. But this was to quickly launch and understand some users' needs, and that's how it is today. We need to be able to step out of our roles and do what's needed. It means that we're one team, and we have to work on a common goal together, all of us, developers and designers. I guess what I'm trying to say, I just want this one to, there we go, is that we need to be more human in our work, and we need to look at the humans who are using our products. But I mean with human, I do know that this is a dog, by the way, but it's just a story I want to illustrate with this dog. Because what I mean with human is that an example of it can be, so when we started out, we had a big corporate client, and they never paid on time. And that's a big deal when you're a small company. We tried everything. We're emailing, faxing, calling them, but nothing happened. So Mills, our founder, he was like, I need to find out who is this person behind this corporate email. So he did some research, some stalking, LinkedIn, Facebook, I don't know, and he found out it was a lady called Margaret, and she loved bulldogs. She absolutely loved bulldogs. So every time from now on, when Mills sent an invoice, he would attach a colorful collage of bulldogs. And what happened now was that every time he sent an invoice, it was paid on time. Every time. And it just applies to everything we do in life and work. Like, be a human being, and people will treat you as a human being. Like, that's it. It also means that you have to empower the people and be flat in your organizations. No one is a decision maker, and everyone on a team is equally equal. Like, there shouldn't be a senior or anyone. Like, everyone is a leader, and everyone should have the possibility to be a leader, because insights and ideas can come from everywhere in a team, from junior, senior, a client, even, like, who knows. Just as an example, because isn't it just easier to have one decision maker and someone taking charge? Well, it probably is. It probably is. But the truth is that the best outcomes come from collaborations from all parts. As an example, this is the marshmallow challenge. I don't know if anyone ever tried it, but you basically get 20 pieces of spaghetti and a marshmallow and a meter of string and a meter of tape. And then you have to build the tallest marshmallow tower within 5 minutes or so. And you're divided in teams of 5. And what happens is that the one with the saddest towers, the towers that never stands up or falls apart, they're built by the people with the fanciest titles. It's CEOs, it's people high up in the hierarchy. Where the tallest towers comes out of this exercise, it's from children. And it's because children, they play, they have fun, they explore, and no child wants to be the CEO of Spaghetti Inc. You just want to have a good time, right? And I think we can apply this directly to how we should work in organizations today. Have fun, like, help each other out. We all want to get the best result, right? But working with corporate clients, it can be really hard to just fucking do it. And it can be tiring, and I don't always get to do my nice UI. I sometimes have to write SMS copy. So therefore I make sure to do stuff outside of work. And I believe that every organization or company should support personal projects, because you can actually flex the muscles you have, if it's dev or design or whatever it is. You can learn something new you might be able to bring back to work, or you can open new opportunities for business or whatever it might be. I just want to take you through something I did while working at Usto. First app in App Store was my perfect. You can still get it. It's an app that shows you exactly how your boiled egg looks on the inside. So I boiled 60 eggs over 2 days and cut them up and took photos of it and put it in an app. So I can see exactly how my egg looks like in 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, 2 minutes and 10 seconds, all the way up to 10 minutes. I learned a lot about eggs. And I don't know, I'm not sure I can apply that to work. But what I also learned is something about how you submit to App Store, which is something I can understand today when we're submitting today. How long will it take? What does Apple consider? Like, all these things. And something good also came out of it. Like, I won a little award, and today I'm then judging new work from other people that other people are submitting to this award. So things are happening when you make stuff and put it out in the world. This is another example. I built it. It's a tic-tac-toe game, but with donuts and sausages instead. I guess we're seeing a food theme here, I'm not sure. But there's this guy I met on Twitter, and he wanted to learn how to do some iOS code, and I was like, yeah, sure, let's do something together. And he's one of my best friends today because we met on Twitter and built this app. I also had I had my friend do a little video for it, and then a sound studio in New York, which I absolutely love what they do. And just gonna let this play. So I had this sound studio in New York to do the music. They usually do sounds for Two Dots, big, great gaming companies. But I was like, I love your work. Can you please do something for me? So totally hustled this. Had a guy to code it, had a girl to animate it, and someone did the music for me. So I didn't really do much, but hustle my way through it. So I think that's just like, again, use your network, put things out there, email people you admire, ask for help, and help others. And that was something about process. It was a little bit about hats and something about spaghetti. Hope it makes sense. Reach out if anything.